Uncle Hool wants to study the skirrrrrrrrr, a race of creatures that look like giant bugs. While Hool works, Zack and Tash visit the skirrrrrrr's huge garden. It's the most beautiful place they have ever seen. It's also full of very strange creatures. When a bat-like shreve swoops down at Zack, he panics and accidentally kills it. Suddenly, the garden is overrun by big beetles. When Zack wakes up in the middle of the night, covered with creepy, crawly bugs, he's terrified. Did Zack upset the garden's delicate ecological balance by killing the shreve? Or is something far more sinister?
Hello, younglings, and welcome to the Padawan Library of Fear.
Yes.
This is the Star Wars Junior Novel Podcast. I am Junior Jedi Librarian Levi Paratic, and with me, as always, Junior Jedi Librarian Tim May.
Yes! It's episode 72, everybody. I feel like
72.
sometimes it's worth reminding our listeners how consistent we've been for an independent podcast.
Right?
This is crazy.
It is.
I can't believe we've accomplished this, frankly.
I know, right?
We started shooting a movie 5 years ago this month, and it's still not finished. Still not finished. These are the people you're working with, guys.
Yep.
And we somehow put this podcast out every week.
Every week. I don't know how we do it. We've only missed a couple, but every week.
We only really missed one, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So
only that one where we got real screwed up, and then we've had those handfuls where they've come out day of. But
come on,
we kill it. We're on fire.
You get like podcasts that are on like networks and shit will have like things where they're a few hours late or like a day late. That happens. But independent podcasts, normally these things are like, oh man, every 5 weeks maybe? Like, believe me, we used to host one.
Yeah, we did host one of those. Every 2 weeks it was supposed to be, and then it became every month, and then it became just dead. So
I mean, yeah, we've proven that we could have. That one we had to record in person was the real problem there.
Yeah, that was the one problem with that one. So this one, we solved that.
Solved it forever. It was very funny to see all these podcasts struggle with like remote recording. I'm like, you've never recorded remotely before? Like, what is wrong with you? It's because they all have a producer that they pay, for example. It's like, I complain about how much work this show is. It's actually not that much work. We have to read a book. That part's like the most work. I guarantee you, when we're done recording today, it will take me a half hour to edit and upload the episodes. A half hour. It's like none of these LA comedians can touch us. We have that technical skill, baby, and I know this sounds way worse than any of those shows.
We went to college for this.
Yeah.
Actually, we went to college for video. But
well, we broadly know.
They're one and the same. It's the same stuff.
All right. Anyway, so
go ahead.
I did want to talk about a couple little recent Star Wars news items, just very basic stuff. One is that The Mandalorian is premiering, October 30th?
Yes.
Which I think is literally the day our last episode for the season comes out. So we will not have anything to say about Mandalorian. Maybe in our hiatus we'll do maybe. No promises. Maybe we'll have a special episode for our hiatus where we talk about Mandalorian Season 2. But, if not, we'll talk about it when we come back in January. So that's great. Yep. I'm excited for the show.
I'm excited for that too. I want a trailer.
Yeah, I assume.
We're so close.
Yeah, it's so weird that there's not one, but I assume it'll be out soon. That's crazy though, because that comes out in October. You also got, for me personally, Star Trek Discovery Season 3 starts.
I knew you were going to say that.
Star Trek Lower Decks is going strong right now. I just watched the new episode this morning. It's very good. And then the other show that I think is coming back this fall, but it might have gotten pushed to the spring, I can't tell, because I think they shot most of it, if not all of it, is For All Mankind. Did I tell you about this show?
Yeah, you were.
Show's really good. This alternate history show that's on Apple or whatever. Very good by Ron Moore, who worked on Star Trek for a long time, created Battlestar Galactica, the new one. Very good writer. But it's alternate history. The Soviets land on the moon first. Space race continues throughout the 70s. Very good show. I'm excited for Season 2. So the fact that I have 3 shows, and really 4 if you count both Star Trek shows, that's crazy. That's crazy. I don't watch... I was talking about last year how I'm done with TV. TV is done. Mm-hmm. Finished. And then since then... There's been the Watchmen show. There's been so much TV. It's so crazy. And I'm watching through Star Trek Deep Space Nine now. I'm all over the place with television. It's crazy.
I'm nowhere with television right now. I have no major shows that I'm watching other than reality TV.
Fair.
And Rebels.
Oh yeah, I saw you've been watching Rebels.
Yeah.
Where are you at in that?
I have 4 episodes left in Season 1.
All right.
I hate Ezra.
You'll get over it. You'll get over it. He gets better in Season 2.
He's so I can't do this. He's just so willing to meditate. Why should I do that? I don't.
Oh yeah, he's very annoying in Season 1, but I think he gets more compelling in Season 2 when you find out some more stuff. And as Seasons 2, 3, 4, just absolute fire from that show.
I'm just trying to get through it, get to it.
And it's a more consistent show than Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm.
In general.
Yeah, I kind of felt that already.
Yeah, so. So even the worst Rebels is still decent, whereas the worst Clone Wars is terrible.
Right. You just don't look at the TV while you do it.
It's still the droids in a big white void, like the construct in the Matrix. Great. All right. So anyway, the other big piece. This is huge news. We got the High Republic Yoda design has come out.
Mm-hmm.
So Yoda, obviously only, 700 years old?
700 years old, yeah. A whole 200 years different.
So, and he looks slightly taller. And
that bone mass is stronger, as he gets older.
Absolutely. He looks he's less hunched over, a little taller. And that's about it. and they made on StarWars.com, I love this, they made this huge deal about how we're unveiling the Yoda design. I'm it looks about what I'd imagine a 60-year-old Yoda versus an 80-year-old Yoda. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It makes sense. It's okay, yeah, my grandfather when he was 60 versus my grandfather when he was 75. Sure. You know what I mean? Yeah, okay.
It's not that huge of a difference, at all.
You can tell, it's very easy to tell they're the same person.
Yep.
But anyway, although The Mandalorian has revealed, certain things about the way this species ages, because Baby Yoda, as I'll continue to call him, Brand.
I will too. Everybody will.
Anyway, the baby is 50, right?
Right.
So that means they don't even reach childhood till probably they're 100 years old, right?
Right, I would think so. Because the way I was thinking of it is 100 years is 10 years in Baby Yoda species. That's the way I was putting it. So.
Yeah. But I mean, who knows? So I just wanted to say that I enjoyed the the new design. It looks fine. I thought it was funny that the artist was like, it was such a huge responsibility. No shots at them, by the way. It was kind of funny.
StarWars.com makes, like, this is actually probably good on their part. Yeah. I mean, they have to, but they make everything they put out seem monumental.
I mean, they're
just like the most minor, like, slight thing. It's always monumental.
It's a promotional website. I mean, that's fine. I just thought it was very funny, like, some of the ways they were talking about it. Speaking of, I've also been, I was on StarTrek.com the other day, because it was Star Trek Day, which is September 8th. They know what they're talking about. Like, it's the day the first episode aired. It's not some bullshit pun like we have as Star Wars fans. But anyway, they did a bunch of, like, online panels for, like, every show, basically. Mm-hmm. And, like, I gotta say, fairly disappointed. They were all, like, 20 minutes long. 20 minutes.
See, they should have taken example from the DC fandom.
See, it reminded me of that. They clearly tried to do that kind of thing. And by the way, the DC fandom is trash, obviously. So, like, all these online conventions are kind of trash. I know a lot of people complain about Comic-Con, but I gotta say, just on a basic programming level, as far as the panels, like, as a comic book fan, there was a lot. If you dig into that list of panels they had a lot of good stuff. Like, with real comic book people, and they were like hour and a half long chunks of people talking about stuff. Like, it was a pretty good selection. Obviously not good for the big movies or whatever, but like the problem with all these promotional movie panels is they can't say anything. They never say anything.
Right, everything is a secret.
So it's like, yeah, now everybody's adopted that style of promotion, so it's kind of like, not, whatever. Who cares? Why are we talking about this? But Star Trek Day, not a flop or anything, but, like, for example, there was a panel for the new upcoming show that hasn't even begun shooting. So we'll see it in, like, 3 years or something. Called Strange New Worlds. And that show, I'm pretty excited about. But they essentially just had a few writers and the cast there, and they were all just like, we sure do love Star Trek. Here's the things we like about Star Trek. What's going to happen? Can't say. What's it going to be like? Well, I don't know. That kind of thing is tiresome to me. So I'd almost rather they just not do anything like Mandalorian. Like, Mandalorian has been dead silent, and it'll just come out.
Right.
Like, fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. I don't want, I don't know. Whatever. I don't want endless hype with nothing of substance within the hype, you know what I mean? So, Anyway.
Well, something I want to talk about real quick. Sometimes we have, we've put out on this show that we hate discussing Star Wars with other people other than each other. You know, mostly,
and some select friends. Yes,
there's some select people, of course. Your brother being one of them. You know, you talk to your brother. I, of course, talk to Mel, and I think sometimes we should have a segment on here because, like, when your brother did the review of Battlefront 2. Mm-hmm. I thought of this segment called Talking Star Wars with Other People, where we just, like, talk about a conversation that we had with another person.
Oh, boy.
So obviously you hear the Daisy Ridley news?
No.
Okay. Well, apparently Jimmy Fallon's away at the moment, so Josh Gad is hosting the show.
Okay.
And I guess he's in the studio, and then he just has guests on remotely. So he had Daisy Ridley on the show.
All right.
And she revealed that early on, around Force Awakens, they told her that, like, she was a Kenobi, and she's like, all right. Then Last Jedi came around, and they're like, you're nobody, and she's like, all right. Then JJ rolls back around. JJ right off the bat goes, you're Sheev Palpatine's daughter. She's like, all right, that makes sense. And then apparently a week later, they were like, JJ was like, actually, we're not sure who you are. Just hold tight. And she said throughout, like, all of filming, she had no idea, like, what the actual answer was. They kept, like, changing it the entire time. They had no clue what they were doing. So this brings me to a conversation Mel and I had about the eventual sequel trilogy and what the sequel trilogy needs to be. And we both agreed right off the bat, it needs to have politics. Obviously, Rey is like, you know, there's a new Republic, and Rey, being a Jedi has a quintessential hand in that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then, Poe and Finn, they should just have an apartment together, kind of like an Odd Couple kind of thing, kind of, what if kind of thing, and, we'll have a good time. I don't know what we'll do with Rose.
Do something. You could do something with her. That would be nice.
Big with Rose. Mm-hmm. We did think of the evil, what the threat is. So there's like some threat against the New Republic, and like they keep talking about how like the New Republic has this like commander, like this great ace commander, and they're talking about him the whole first movie, and then you get to the end of the movie and Rey meets him, and it's Hayden. And then it's like this whole revealed thing that the Empire cloned Vader.
This is already JJ bullshit. I don't know.
And they installed him in the New Republic as like a commander, but turns out he's like a double agent, but nobody knows because nobody knows what he looks like because they're all young. It's already a mess.
Well, I do hope they eventually make... I don't think they should do another trilogy, but maybe in like 10 to 15 years do a just one sequel where all the characters, including Rose, get to just have a fun adventure that has no bearing on their parentage or their or anything. Just like give them a fun time, like instead of just, whatever. Anyway, all right. Well, we talked enough. This week we're talking Galaxy of Fear number 8, The Swarm. This book, guys.
This book is goofy for unintentional reasons.
Oh, this book is deeply goofy. So we're going to talk The Swarm. We're going to swarm all up in your face. I don't... yeah. So we're going to talk about The Swarm when we come back on Padawan Library. Welcome back to Padawan Library, episode 72. I'm saying it again. My name's Tim May. Here, as always, with my co-host, my friend, Levi Paratek.
Thank you, my friend.
So, that was a sincerity on microphone, guys. So, this week, we're back to Galaxy of Fear, and this is The Swarm. Now, okay, a couple things. This book's cover features the character of Thrawn. We'll get into Thrawn and his role in the book. I just want to talk a little about Thrawn generally.
And let me reveal this right off the bat.
Okay.
This is the first Thrawn content I've encountered.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that shows how lousy of a Star Wars fan I am.
You're fine.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
This is my first Thrawn adventure.
It's okay. Don't worry about it. But it's not even really so much about about Thrawn himself. We can talk about him as a character as we get into him in this book. But I just want to share a story. So after the Legends timeline was called the Legends timeline, when it was thrown out in favor of the new stuff, me and my brother discovered some guy on YouTube. I won't say his name because he literally gets maybe 60 views per video. So I don't he's just a normal person. He's a normal person.
I think I know who you're talking about.
I've shown him to you before. He's a normal person. I don't want to send anybody after him. But he's kind of goonish, so I just wanted to share just some thoughts about him. So, this guy really was pissed off that the timeline was being rebooted. And so he, for a very long time anyway, he stopped after a year or two. Hopefully that means he's a reasonably well-adjusted person. I don't know. But he spent a year or two just whining about this on YouTube. And he also hated people that only were casual fans. He was Southern, and he's just these casual fans is how he would say it. And he was talking about casual fans, people who had only read the Thrawn trilogy. And I'm like, you know what? If you've read any Star Wars novel, you're a pretty big Star Wars fan. Like, I don't know. And he would be like, everybody's talking throne. Like, he was like whining about this. I'm like, okay, like, so you don't like Thrawn? I couldn't get I never was able to really get read the room there, but he was a big fan of the later stuff, like kind of Legacy of the Force, Fate of the Jedi, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, he was a bit of a goober. I don't know why I'm talking about him, but me and my brother used to laugh about this guy. Anytime I've looked him up since, it's like he just kind of has like, now he does like board game videos that nobody watches. So he's moved on with his life, which is probably a good sign. But yeah, wild stuff. Anyway, I don't know, just wanted to tell that story. So The Swarm, though, is the 8th book in the Galaxy of Fear series by John Whitman. And this one is
cover by Steve Charney. With a very squinty Thrawn on the cover, so you can't see his blood-red eyes.
Yeah. So, if you remember last time...
Not to interrupt you, but can I review?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. So, where we stand. Recently, we've discovered Uncle Hul's true identity, and that Uncle Hul is basically a war criminal, being that he had a hand in genociding an entire planet.
Sure.
This is mostly forgotten at this point, because Borgamus Gog is dead, and this whole mystery of who Hul is over, and the children have largely forgiven him for this, it seems, and just forgotten about it. DV, the droid, their tutor droid, was unceremoniously dumped in the last book.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, I hadn't even thought about their absence.
So DV, who was a trusty sidekick of the children the entire time, caretaker, just put off to the wayside. Their reasoning was, it was like, he was too damaged, he wanted to have a life of rest, so he went to go work at this Galactic Institute. Sounds like to me the actor was like, nope, I'm done, and they wrote him out of the show for treating it like a TV show.
Okay.
And then, what was the last thing? Oh, and then, where we last left them, Tash had her brain removed and put into a brain spider and taken out of the brain spider put back. That also has zero repercussions in this book, too. The fact that, like, you'd think, like, you know, you get a finger or something cut off and you put it back on, like doctors put it back on, it doesn't work like perfectly, you know, because you've sliced the nerve endings and stuff. It seems like she'd have some repercussions of having her brain removed. Nope, Tash is fine. So, this book, The Swarm.
Listen, we don't... There's not a lot to talk about here. There's a lot of funny little bits, so we're going to get to everything. But basically, this book begins... Zach is fiddling with the engine of the Shroud, their ship. Which,
calling back to more lore in this book, is Dr. Evazan's ship.
Right. So, anyways, fiddling with the engine, and he screws something up, but the ship keeps running just fine, so whatever. He goes to Uncle Hul's lesson with Tash, because Uncle Hul teaches them homeschooling.
DV's gone,
so they, and Uncle Hul's like, okay, we're gonna land on, what's the planet called again?
Skirr.
Oh yeah, Skirr. Skirr.
And
SK''RR, right?
Yes. And do you know what the species of skirr is? They're skirrs.
The skirrs. Wait till we get to the names of some of these characters. Okay. So, anyway, Skirr. So they're heading to Skirr because Hul is worried that it's this beautiful place, like this beautiful botanist planet, where he's worried the Empire is going to target them, so he wants to go there, study, preserve kind of their culture, because he's an anthropologist, you might remember. So, they land in a beautiful garden. This beautiful garden. and they're immediately greeted by the
caretaker.
The caretaker, whose name is
Vroon.
Vroon, as in vroom vroom, but with an N. Lots of skidding. A skid-themed planet. So, Vroom comes up, who's the caretaker of the garden. He's like, hey, you gotta move your ship because all this mechanical stuff is gonna interfere with the balance, the ecological balance of the garden. Hool's like, makes sense, I'll go move it now. But here's the problem, engine won't start because Zach was fucking with the engines. So apparently it's going to take a while for them to fix it. So Hool goes off trying to convince Vroon to let them stay for a bit. And Zach and Tash explore the garden.
Right. And once they get into the garden, they discover that the garden has a very, very delicate balance. There are these beetles, these large black beetles named Drogs, D-R-O-G, but the Drogs can reproduce rapidly, so rapidly that there is another bat-like species, a large bat kind of creature, named Shreeves, just like Sheev, but with an R in there.
Literally spelled that way, ends with the V, doesn't have an E at the end, so it's spelled just like Sheev. I'm just like, did George just like look to take go into his office where he has every Star Wars book, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And just grab a random book and like flip it open and be like Shreve, and like just point at something like Shreve, like I'll change one thing about this and that'll be his name.
That'll be his name.
Anyway, Shreve.
Okay. So anyway, the lore is that because the Shreeves eat the Drogs, they keep it all in balance. But if even one Shreve is killed, it will upset the balance and the garden will be destroyed. Well, Zach, being the unlucky little brat that he's in the garden, he finds a beetle, and the beetle starts crawling on his hand, and then he's attacked by one of these bat-like creatures, which he doesn't know is a Shreve, and he hits it with a stick and kills it. So now he's a murderer, and he's just like, well, I didn't tell anybody about the engine, and I'm not going to tell anybody about this. So he goes about his day. And then this is where we meet a new character, because he catches up with Tash, and she is talking to another skirrrrrrrr, and the skirrrrs are, of course, insect-like
yeah, they're bug people.
They're bug people. And we meet a poet that he's introduced as, and his name is Shashak.
Shashak. It's S-H-S-H-A-C-K, right?
Yes.
Shashak.
Shashak.
Oh man.
And
I don't know what to say. These names. I don't know why these names made me chuckle so hard.
These names made me chuckle so much. So, and then they're like, oh, well, if you're a poet, and Zach's like, I hate poetry. I don't care about art or poetry.
And
I only want to study power and ship engines.
Yeah, she said, oh, what did he say? I wrote you, like,
Yeah, he sent me a quote from the book this morning.
Damn it. Like, I don't have access to Facebook right now.
Hang on, I think I can access it, like, while we do this.
So, yeah, like, Zach is, of course, disgusted by poetry. And Tash is, of course, very impressed by poetry. Like, I think she has a crush on Shashak.
She seems to have a crush on, like, every, like, adult character she meets in these books. But, yes, I agree. She's, like, always
he's a sensitive... He's an artist. Or, like... Yeah, like, she's just... That's her type. You know, she'll get through it. You know, once she's been through college and had a couple jerk, like, guitarist boyfriends, she'll probably, you know, change her ways.
Here's the quote you sent me. Boring, thought Zach. I'd rather study power plants than living plants.
What is that? Oh, good lord.
I also want to point out that this book too, like, has a lot of actual science in it. Like, they talk about like exoskeletons and like plant structure and stuff like that. And it was like, oh, this is what a science adventure book should have been like.
Yeah, I agree. This isn't great. We're going to talk about our ratings at some point, but this story was at least coherent and like, yeah. So, and easily could have been a science adventure.
But before we go any further, we should of course talk about the Wind Song.
Oh yeah, because Shishak is a poet, and the poetry is expressed through wind song, which is the flapping of his wings, basically the sound of his wings. Wind song. Did I say wind? Wing song.
Yes, yeah, wing.
So,
which anytime it's described that their wings are flapping and they're making noise with their wings, it emits a soft skirrrrrrrrr.
Yeah, that's where they get their name. Unbelievable. So they skirrrrrrrrr. Oh man, we're scurrying to finish this episode. So anyway, they this is like a thing where like where Shishak says that like it connects them and it like connects them with all the plant life, and it's, you can listen to the feelings of the plants and all that stuff, which is, based on some real like ideas about plant life on Earth. So
Thrawn.
what happens after Thrawn arrives? Yeah, because then an Imperial shuttle shows up. Because Hool got permission from Vroon to stay while they fix the shroud.
And also, when they see the Imperial shuttle land, they're like, "What do we do?" And like, Hool's like, "We can't do anything. The ship's broken, so we're just gonna."
And also, like, yeah, they probably don't know who we are. They're probably not here for that. And so Thrawn comes out. This blue-skinned guy, a Chiss. He comes out. He's along with a couple other people, and he wants to see the caretaker. He comes right up to Hool and's like, "Where's the caretaker of this garden?" And Hool's like, "He's right over there," basically. Leads him right there. And like, but then Tash is like really like snotty and is just like, "Why? So you can kill him or some shit like that?" And like, he's just like, "No, I want to study the art on this planet." And it's like, because to truly understand a people, you need to understand their art. There's a classic Thrawn thing. And
why? So you can defeat them better? And
he was just like, maybe, basically.
If I have to. Yeah.
So anyway, he goes there. Hool and Zach are working on the engine, and then they wind up going to bed. And Zach, by the way, Zach, in order to, did we talk about him
stomping the bugs?
About the bugs in general?
No, we haven't. No,
I can't believe we forgot that. Okay, so basically, Shishak tells him that the legend is that basically the reason that the...
Well, we did talk about this. If, like, one Shreve is dead, then, but Shishak tells them a Shreve eats about 30 of the drug beetles a day.
And so, because Zach's feeling guilty about this, he decides he's going to kill 30 beetles and, he'll figure it out later.
Yeah.
So he kills 30 beetles. They go back to bed. He's about to tell Tash. Tash is like, "Wait, I got to ask you something." Actually, let's stop for a second. Let me just say something about the characters in this book, and maybe in general, but I noticed it a lot in this one. There's a lot of I need to tell you something, and then the other person being like, "Not now."
Especially Uncle Hool.
Yeah,
Uncle Hool every single time.
And it's wouldn't it be better for everyone to know all the important stuff going on?
I know. Hool treats the children like they know absolutely nothing. And that absolutely nothing they know can be useful. Everything he's got going has to come first. And that's every single book with Hool.
Yeah. So weird. Anyway, so they so basically they're about to go to bed, and then so he's about to tell Tash that he fucked up, killed the Shreve, and then Tash is like, no, don't tell me anything. I just want to know are you willing to help me follow some of these Imperials, spy on these Imperials, because I don't trust them. And he's just like, sure. So she wakes up early the next morning. They start following an Imperial officer. Mm-hmm. And then they follow the Imperial officer until they see him.
Well, yeah,
they discover his...
Well, they lose him, and then they find Shishak.
Oh, yeah, they see Shishak. He's training. Who, by the way, Shishak, the poet, is supposedly like very world-renowned on skirrrrrrrrr. And apparently it's not for his poetry, it's for some other more aggressive talent, is what I think Rune said. And the other aggressive talent is apparently he's a dope fighter. He's like training. Mm-hmm. And so they're like
he's got a spear, and then like the kids see him, and he gets kind of like embarrassed, and he's just like, "Oh, I gotta go," and then the kids stumble upon Thrawn after they stumble upon Shishak, and Thrawn is just looking at the garden, and he's telling them about like the culture and everything about that. And then the kids continue to walk past him after they have this conversation with him, and they find the Imperial officer that they had been tailing is dead, and that his face is being eaten by the drog beetles.
So, wild stuff. Thrawn, right? This is when they hook up with Thrawn, right? Mm-hmm. So Thrawn shows up, and he's like, what's going on here? This guy's dead. Don't bother with him. And he's just like, obviously I got to find somebody for murder, but he's going on about the culture of skirrrrrrrrr, sorry, and he's like, oh, it's about beauty and violence and like a balance, and he's like, it's very interesting, and like, and he orders Tash and Zach to come with him, and they're not gonna, they listen, they go with him. Because I guess he's intimidating. He's Captain Thrawn at this point, not Grand Admiral yet. So anyway, they so basically from here on, Thrawn is like these beetles are killing my men because another guy dies. Mm-hmm. And he's just like, somebody is responsible for this, and I think it's Shishak. Mm-hmm. All right, so he gets Shishak in custody, starts questioning him, questioning Tash, questioning Zach, questioning Hool, and like then they're like, okay, well, what's going on? Like, this guy is like apparently like a fighter, but he's trying to put on this poet face. Who's he? And like, so Thrawn's accusing him of murdering these Imperial officers.
There's basically like a trial here.
Yeah.
And it's like it's an Imperial trial, but it actually kind of becomes like a fair trial because the kids...
Yeah, for the most part.
The kids and Hool have all interacted with Shishak around the time that this guy was murdered. This first Imperial guy was murdered. So they like speak up as like witnesses, and they end up getting Shishak out. They free Shishak.
Free Shishak. And so that's how they freed Shishak. And good luck. So embarrassing.
And that's how I beat Shishak.
One of the goofiest things of all time. All right, so what does happen after this? Oh yeah, they get into the Imperial shuttle because like Thrawn's like, I'm suspicious of all you. I'm going to take you back up to the Star Destroyer to figure out who you are. And but then the Imperial shuttle, the vents are overflowing with beetles.
Yes,
so they can't take off.
Yes, the engines are like screwed up too. Like the beetles like ate the wiring and stuff. Yeah. So then Thrawn is just like, all right, what's going on here? Vroon has to have something to do with this. So they go to find Vroon, and they get to his little shack, and they find him, and he's covered in beetles. But he's like making the skirrrrrrrrr windsong sound.
And so at this point, Zach is like, shit, I need to just admit what I did. He's like, I killed one of the Shreves. It's my fault because that's why all the beetles are overrunning everything. And like Thrawn's like, that's ridiculous. Killing one of a species isn't going to disrupt the entire ecological balance of the planet.
I love that he just calls Zach like an idiot.
Like, he's like, you're a fucking nimskull. Nimskull? Numbskull. And so, anyway, and then they find out the beetles all roll off of Vroon, and Vroon's like, yes, my beetles. I love my beetles. They're my ancestors. He loves them. They're like, we gotta kill some of these beetles. He's like, you can't. They're my ancestors. So what we find out is that Vroon has been systematically for a year killing more and more Shreeves to essentially multiply these beetles because he believes they're his ancestors and he worships them. Mm-hmm. So, and Thrawn calls him a bug-worshipping fool. Which was very funny. But anyway, so what's going on?
Well,
here?
then Vroon escapes, and there's a big chase scene.
Yeah.
And then they can't find Vroon, and they basically the beetles are swarming, like they are blotting out the sky, and they run like back to the Imperial shuttle. Well, actually, no. Uncle Hul transforms into a Shreeve to try to save them at one point.
And Thrawn's impressed by the. Thrawn's like, a Shido? So, so yeah, and he.
They go back to the Imperial shuttle to try to get it working, but it overfills with beetles again. So they end up going back to Vroon's workshop, where they find Vroon, but Vroon is dead. All that's left is his exoskeleton. The beetles have turned on him and ate him. So then so the whole gang's back. There's this big moment where Hul comes back with a bunch of Shreeves, and they start picking off the beetles. Well, the problem is the Shreeves get their fill. They eat only about 30 beetles, and then they fly off. So this doesn't solve their beetle problem. So all of them, including Uncle Hul and Shashak, they end up in Vroon's shack trying to fight off the beetles, when Zach gets the idea of, well, Shashak, can't you try to communicate with the beetles just so, we can get going here? And Shashak's like, I guess I can try. And then Hul's like, well, I can transform into a skirrrrrrrr to Shashak, and we can wing song together. So
he becomes the Kobe to Shashak's shack,
exactly.
and they win 3 in a row.
The end. The end.
Basically, yeah, they disperse all the beetles, and then Thrawn's like, good plan, cool that it worked, like, I'm coming after you guys, I gotta go fix my ship. And Zach, Hul, and Tash go to head back to the Shroud. They fix the ship just in time. They also take Shashak with them.
Yes.
And they land in another place, and they're like, oh, we're going to redistribute all we're not going to kill the beetles. We're going to redistribute them all across the planet. Like, thanks for being here. Shouts to you. Cool. We're good. So they take off, and they escape Captain Thrawn. Mm-hmm. And but apparently a couple of the beetles are on the Shroud, and it's treated like a cliffhanger. I'm like, are they really gonna follow up on, like, are these beetles? Are they gonna, like, fuck with the Shroud? Is this the first 2-part storyline?
I doubt it.
That seems crazy. So, anyway, that's the book. Wow. Record time. Probably not record. I don't know. Yeah.
It's a shorter episode.
It's a shorter episode. I'm sorry, guys. But this book was very silly. I had a good time with it, so I'm not mad about it. But, like, it's not very good. 5 out of 10 midichlorians.
I'd give it probably exactly the same.
Like, the plotting, like I was saying, where it's, like, endlessly people being like, I don't need to hear this news right now. Like, that kind of just wore on me a little. It's, I enjoy these books for the most part. Like, I'm not mad at them. Like, they're enjoyable kids' books, but, they're a huge, they're on many tiers below the Jude stuff. So
I agree. I couldn't
it's
agree
fine.
more. Yep, but they're fun. They're fun. And this book is going to be memorable in the series for being so unintentionally funny with the skirrrrrrr, the skirrs on skirrrrrr, and the Shashak. Like, there's just
scourge of skirrs.
So yeah.
So yeah, we're the next one's called Spore, right?
Mm-hmm. I believe so.
So we'll see what Spore's all about. That's in a few weeks. Because next week, we're going to be talking book number 9, not in Galaxy of Fear, but in Last
of the Jedi.
Master of Deception. So we're getting a little Bail Organa in this. Mm-hmm. Very exciting.
Maybe a Leia, according to the cover, even though she's only like 1 year old. So.
Yeah, we're going to get baby Leia. I don't think we're getting full-grown Leia, which the cover definitely implies.
I wish they had made a baby Leia for the cover. That would have been funny, but...
That would have been cool. But what are you going to do?
This cover is also, like... There's been no consistency in Ferris on these covers, and this is the wildest Ferris.
He's very angry.
Very angry, and like he's got a big nose, and I'm trying to find somebody who he looks like.
Do you think it's like, bottled on somebody?
No, but I'm trying to like find like an actor to compare it to, and like I can't like quite figure out. Like,
he looks like a bunch of kids I went to like middle school with to me.
The only thing I can think of is like he's oh crap, what's his name? The dude who played Jim in The Office.
Krasinski? Yeah, I can see. Yeah, he has a bit of a Krasinski look.
Very Jim hair, like in the wind, kind of Krasinski, but
yeah, maybe. All right, so that's next week, and then we're finishing up Last of the Jedi the following week, and then we're gonna do a wrap up episode the week after that.
Yes.
So. And then all through October, basically, not the first week of October, but the last 4 Fridays of October, we're going to finish up Galaxy of Fear, books 9 through 12. So, and then that'll lead us into our hiatus. So look forward to all that. Next week, back to the Last of the Jedi. This week, scurry away.
Until the books are due back.
The library is closed.